I haven't yet posted any homework. I had an excuse and I can't think what it was. Must not have been that good, was it? You can't remember your excuse. Probably needed more work, didn't it? I did find a previous exam, and I think I took off I think I took off the problems that didn't match. And unfortunately, I didn't put the problem numbers back on. Sorry, I got busy. You know, students always bother me about, I want classes for next spring. So let's work on this, and then over the weekend I'll put some of the problems on that I don't have on here, which was mainly the perishable goods problem. And
is that in chapter 8?
Yeah, it's chapter 8. And we haven't done anything in chapter 12 yet, so we're good. So we're not too far off with this. So let's start on page 1. What would be problem number 1? I guess we should start here and say day's not the 8th, is it? I need a 1 there. So today's the 18th of October, and we're studying for exam 2. The study guide has been given out. So what would be problem 1, although the 1's been removed. Wonder what that says, C8 markdown. What's that mean?
I think it's chapter 8.
Boy, I wonder who put that on there. That's pretty clever, isn't it? Yep, that's what it means. Go to chapter 8, look at markdowns. So Macy's is selling jeans for $29.99. The original price was $54.99. You know, blue jeans are outrageous, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Unless you go to Goodwill or someplace like that.
You know, there's a lot of stuff at Goodwill. It's not really worn out at all.
One time I was at a yard sale, I bought 3 pairs of jeans. I gave them $6 for the jeans, $2 a piece. I come home, went to wash them. I found $7 in the pocket of the jeans. So they paid me $1.
Did you go? Did you go play the lottery? By the way, Mega Millions is like $900 million tomorrow night.
No, I didn't win yet.
Well, maybe y'all know the answer to this question. Something to think about.
Kentucky won $1 million.
Well, Mega Millions, there's about 300 million possible numbers. If a billionaire wanted to, couldn't they say, I want one of every number? Okay, then you're guaranteed to win. The only thing you have to worry about is if somebody else won too, you might have to split it. I wonder why nobody's ever tried that.
Why don't you go try it?
I don't have $1 billion to
That's the thing.
make the initial investment.
If you was a billionaire and you had $1 billion, why would you want to spend $300 million?
You don't understand. If you're rich, you want to get richer. Seriously, that's the mindset of rich people. That's why we're not rich. We don't have that killer instinct.
Is that what it is?
Yes. Seriously, research indicates that there's basically 2 kinds of people in the world.
People who want money and people who don't.
Yeah. You're either, programmed to squeeze every penny no matter how, or you're basically played by some mythical rules that'll get you nowhere. Okay? So I'm through editorializing on that.
I'm the mythical rules.
Yeah, well,
I come from shit, and I'm going to end up being shit.
but you're honest.
Yeah, that I am.
Sorry. Sorry about that.
I can't help it. My grandpa raised me that way.
All right, let's get back to work here. Macy's is selling jeans. We have the markdown price, we have the original price. Part A says, what was the dollar amount of the markdown? So if it says dollar amount, it's just dollars.
So you take the $54.99 and minus the $29.99.
Yeah, so the dollar markdown is going to be the original price in dollars minus.
So the answer to that question is $54.99, right?
Well, that's the original price.
It says what was the dollar amount of the markdown? No, that's not it.
So $54.99 minus.
$29.99 is $25.
Oops. You said 25 and I wrote down a 2. So we think that's what?
$25.
$25? So that's the dollar markdown. Okay?
See, that's the percent thing, that's what gets me.
Well, we'll do this in a minute. Everybody okay with this? So that's part A. Part B. I already see a problem here with part B. It says based on the selling price, what was the percent markdown? Well, you talking about the original selling price or the new selling price? I'm assuming here, and I should clarify this, base this on the original selling price. Now, let's go see, because I can't remember off the top of my head. Let's go back here to chapter 8 on like page 229 or something like that. Maybe 227.
Yeah, it's on 27, in the first column, almost to the bottom, it says markdowns. Markdown percent equals dollar markdown divided by price, selling price.
There you go. Everybody see where Melissa's pointing to there? 227, left-hand column. It's the next to the last little block. It's a white block. Percent markdown percent is the dollar markdown divided by the original selling price. So that's exactly what we need here, isn't it? So the markdown in percent is the dollar markdown which fortunately we just calculated, divided by the original selling price. Now both of these are dollars, so the dollars are going to cancel out, and then basically there's no number, there's no units left. So whenever you get something we call dimensionless, typically you're looking at percent. So what's our dumb numbers here? This is going to be 25, and this is, okay, so your markdown percent is, calculator says,
45%.
about, and this is one of those cases where it looks like 45%, but if you multiply it by 100, you'll see it's a little bit off because I've got mine locked into 2 decimal places. So the 0.45 is rounded off. So whenever you see something like this, it's probably a good idea to multiply by 100 and see what the hidden decimal places are. I wouldn't have taken off for 45%, but every once in a while that'd make a difference. But I just want you to get in the habit of always reminding yourself that the calculator is showing me 2 decimal places. Sometimes you need to know the others. You know, what's missing there. That wasn't bad, was it?
No. Now we're going to mark up.
All right, the next problem, C8, markup on cost. We run a sporting goods store. Experience has shown you that customers will pay no more than $49.99 for a pair of wading boots. If you want a 40% markup on cost, what is the most you can pay a supplier? So let's see. $49.99 is what? It's really the selling price, isn't it? Okay. And what else can we pick out of this? We want 40% on cost. By the way, that's 0.40. And then what are we looking for? Cost, isn't it? So we know S, we know percentage on cost. We just need to find cost itself. So let's look on 226 and 227. I think it's going to be on 226. And see here. If there's something here that'll work for us. Anybody see a formula there that just jumps right out and says, it's me, it's me?
Selling price divided by 1 plus percent markup on cost.
Which one's that?
The one at the very bottom of 226.
That's what I thought. The one at the very bottom corner, the left-hand column, it says cost equals the selling price divided by 1 plus percent markup on cost. And the reason I like that one is we know what? We know the selling price and we know the markup on the cost. And we understand what the 1 is, don't we? That's the original cost. But it's just a number right now. And this is in terms of what we're looking for, which is cost. Does everybody see why I like this formula? Bobbleheads? Okay. So now it's just a question of plugging and chugging, isn't it? Those are technical math terms, by the way. So, y'all are a tough crowd. 49.99 goes there. And then here we're going to have 1 plus 0.40. So I'll write it down here. Cost is $49.99 divided by 1.4. Calculators. Clear. So what'd y'all get? So does everybody understand what we just found out here? If I'm going to go try to order wading boots, if I want to keep them under $50 and make 40% markup on cost, $35.71 is the most I could pay for them. Okay, so now I can compare different suppliers. Okay? Is everybody okay with that? Let me copy this over here. All right. So, what would be the third problem if somebody hadn't erased all the, actually deleted, because it was done electronically, deleted all the problem numbers. It says C8, markup on selling. You are buying a $10,000 entertainment system. I have no idea. I guess my idea here was you're going to have a big TV and a nice, sound system, and
It best be big and nice for $10,000.
I don't know. I haven't bought anything like this for a long time, and I sure didn't pay $10,000 for it. But I'm pretty sure you could spend that kind of money, couldn't you?
Oh, yeah. It wouldn't surprise me.
Maybe they want to entertain a whole bunch of people.
Well, you could set up like a little mini movie studio.
Yeah.
They have those things. Yeah. But the thing, and I've seen these, and here's the thing and I understand why it's this way, but you'll have the screen, and there's like 2 or 3 rows of seats. But if you have your friends over, they're all looking that way, and you're just sitting in there with them. I get you're watching the movie, but don't you want to look over at your friend and say, "What's up?" It just seems like it's a little creepy to me that all the chairs are pointing the same way.
That's how it is at the movie theater. That's what they're trying to replicate.
Well, see, I guess I'm going to have to deal with this when I win the $900 million. Because if I win $900 million, I'm going to have one of these, whether I want it or not. Okay?
Well, you can always get the captain's chairs.
I'll invite y'all over.
However you want.
Yeah.
I'll invite y'all over. We'll figure out how to use it. How's that for a
Just
deal?
build a drive-in theater. It'll be very well.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably, I think the best thing to do would be to have like nice recliners and with wheels on them. And then you could move everything around.
You can just buy a whole bunch of these chairs. 'Cause they have wheels on them. And you can kind of go back.
Yeah, I want something nicer than this though. Yeah. And you need a place for your drink. Your iced tea. Because that's all I ever drink. Okay. I actually don't even like iced tea. Because you put ice in there and it melts, it dilutes the tea.
Yes.
I like cold tea. People just don't figure these things out like I do. I spend a lot of time working on the big mysteries of life. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, how to get your tea cold without getting it diluted.
Well, they got those little ice cubes that's in they got like plastic or whatever you can.
Yeah.
You just freeze them. Just,
Well, now, okay. I don't know what this has to do with business math. But at home, when I make tea at home, I use a regular cheap coffee maker. So you wind up with a certain amount of tea. I usually don't make the whole thing. In the thing called a carafe. Carafe, I think is the way you say it. Well, I got a big aluminum bowl. I set it down in there and then put ice water around it. So you cool the tea down, but all the ice and everything is outside the actual tea. I told you I spend a lot of time thinking about these things.
Or you could just get these little plastic ice cubes and put them in the freezer and then just stick them in your glass.
Yeah, but then you got to get them back.
All you gotta do is rinse them. Rinse
You
and
wash
freeze them.
yeah, you wash your cup anyway.
No, that's too complicated.
Or you could always just put your cup in the freezer.
Frosty mug.
That's a thought right there. Better still, I guess you would get one of these metal thermos. That's what they are. They're actually thermoses.
And Yetis.
Yeah. Or any of the knockoffs will work just about as good. Put it in the freezer. All right, number 3. Markup on selling. We're going to buy this entertainment system. You have heard the dealer has a 35% markup based on selling price. So here's what we want to do. We want to figure out what the dealer's markup is in dollars and what the dealer's original cost is. So let's look at what we know. I'm assuming here the selling price is $10,000. So we also know 35% on selling price is that's percent markup. Okay. So part A, we want to know
What is the dealer's markup in dollars?
markup in dollars. So let's go back to, I think it's page 227. 227 has the things based on selling. So what do you see there?
Dollar markup. The second one down. And the first line there.
That's who I go with.
Selling price, it says selling price equals dollar markup divided by percent markup for selling price.
Well, now everything we need's in there. We may have to rearrange it. Look down and see if there's something. Is there anything else? And we may have to just go with that.
The one right above it then?
We just have that, it's
Dollar markup portion divided by selling price.
No.
Percent
I
markup.
think we're going to have to go with the one y'all found there. We're just going to have to do a little rearranging. So let's look at the one you were looking at. S equals, what is it?
Dollar markup.
Dollar markup divided by percent. Let me clean that up a little bit while y'all figure out what we're going to do next. So what do you see is wrong here? It's not exactly wrong. Is our formula in the right form?
No.
We're going to do a little manipulation, aren't we? So watch this. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll put it in blue. Multiply each side by You remember doing some of this? So here's what you're going to wind up with. You're going to have selling times percent markup on selling equals the dollar markup.
So the dollar markup is the $10,000.
No. S is 10,000.
Selling prices. Okay.
So think about what I did here.
With the one, you're multiplying, not dividing.
So we found a relationship, found a formula that has the two things we know and the one thing we don't know, but it wasn't in the right form. So what we're doing here is just basic algebra. I want to get dollar markup by itself. Right now, dollar markup is divided by percent markup on selling. if I multiply both sides of that equation by percent markup on selling, I'll wind up with dollar markup by itself, which is what I want, because that's what I'm looking for.
So it
Okay?
counts.
Just little simple. It's just algebra. Really basic algebra. Algebra you can actually use, not necessarily what they teach in algebra class. I just rearranged the formula. That's all it is.
So that's the way we wanna do it though. We wanna take the $10,000, times it by the 35%,
Yeah.
and then that should give us our
Mhm.
markup.
Mm-hmm. But for the time being, I've noticed this. You tend to put the numbers in and think about the numbers. I'm thinking about S's and dollar markups, and I get this the way I want it, and then I put the numbers in. I don't even think about numbers till I get this.
So you find the thing over here.
Yeah, I get this. I haven't even considered the numbers.
Yeah.
Once I get it like that, now I can put numbers in. Melissa's right. Selling is 10,000. And then the percent markup, we can go back and look at it. That's actually 0.35, isn't it?
Mhm.
So that means the dollar markup, that is the dollar markup. So $3,500. So what this amounts to is I'm going to go offer the store $8,000 for this $10,000 stereo and see if they'll bite. Because I've got an idea in my head now how much they're making.
Mhm.
So, maybe I can get it for $8,500. They would still be making,
1,500.
a couple thousand. So, okay. So that's part A. So the point is, we wrote down what we got, well, what we're given, and what we're looking for, which is that. Okay? Put a big question mark there. That's what we're looking for. We went looking for formulas. In this case, we want a formula that has the two things we're given and the one thing we're trying to find. Well, we found a formula that does that, but it wasn't expressed the way we wanted it. So doing a little simple manipulation here, I multiply both sides by that, which winds, if I multiply this part right here by percent markup on selling, that'll be on top. It cancels that out. I'm just left with dollar markup. Okay? You want me to show you a different form of what I really did? Well, let me show you what I really did. I'm just going to use A, B's, and C's. Well, let's do this. Let's use S and D for dollars and P for percent. Okay? I'll write it over here. S equals selling, D equals dollars, P equals percent. Okay? So here's what I found. But what I want here is I want D. So what I'm saying is multiply both sides by D. So I'm going to have S times D equals, actually P, excuse me. Multiply each side by P. S times P equals D times P divided by P. That cancels out, and I'm just left with D. So I multiplied each side by P. Okay? And I'm actually surprised the book didn't have the formula in the right form. It usually does. But I've told you that There's whole books of formulas. Well, sometimes you find a formula that works, it's just not the right form. You got to do a little manipulation. So all I did, multiply each side by P.
That's just the answer to A. What's B?
That,
We
yeah.
take the 10,000 and subtract.
Well, wait a minute. Let's nail down A, and then we'll go to B. Is everybody okay with this? I haven't even looked at B. Okay, what's the dealer's original cost? Okay.
So if they marked it up to 35%, then that would be the 10,000.
Let me go over here and get a new page. Remember, back in this chapter, it tells you that S equals C plus M, dollar markup. Now this is one of those. This is the same thing right here. We're looking for what? Find C. Well, right now I've got S equals C plus M. What's the opposite of plus M? It would be minus M, wouldn't it? So if I subtract the dollar markup from each side, now I've got what I'm looking for. And it's the same thing I did a while ago, except a while ago I had to multiply instead of subtract. Same concept. Okay, so this is going to be 10,000 minus
3,500.
the 3,500. What is it? How much was it?
6,500.
Okay. And that's part B. Okay? So sometimes the formula that you find is not in the right form. You just have to kind of, you can just smack it around a little bit to get it the way you want it. Okay?
How come I don't work with your kids?
Hmm?
How come I don't work with your kids? Just smacking them around and getting them where you want them.
Maybe you just didn't hit them hard enough. Well, you know, here's the thing about kids. If you have a kid that grows up and never causes any trouble and doesn't want to leave the house and never speaks to anybody, is that child going to be successful when they become an adult? Probably not. On the other hand, if you have one that's a little unruly and you got to, you know, kind of fuss at them every once in a while, but at least they're, you know, not necessarily, you know, you don't want them in a whole lot of trouble, but you don't want them to be a wallflower either. They're probably going to be a much more successful adult. So sometimes you just got to suck it up and think, boy, I hope there's a payoff somewhere down the line. But I never was a troublemaker myself, so.
I find that hard to believe.
I just make a different kind of trouble.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yep. Most of my teachers learned to don't push me because I can ask questions that you can't answer. Okay? Yeah, don't mess with me. Let's see what we've got now. I'm looking at C10, simple interest. Y'all looking at that? That would have been number 4. C10. On May 8th, we borrow $5,000. So, P equals 5,000. R equals 475. And we might as well turn that into a decimal, hadn't we? On May the 8th. Now we're going to pay this back on November the 9th. On So, anytime you're doing interest, you need to know principal, the interest rate, and the time, don't you? Do we know the time? No, but we have a couple of dates, don't we? So I like to put the later date. Did I spell November right? I think so. It didn't look right for some reason.
Looks like it.
And then underneath that, we're going to have May the 8th. So somewhere here,
May the 8th is 128, and November 9th is 313.
313.
Yes, ma'am.
313, and what was November the 8th?
128.
128. Is that what y'all got? Okay, let's see. That's 5, 8. What'd y'all get? Okay. Days. Days we have one. 185. All right, everybody with me so far? So, the interest due is the principal times the rate multiplied by the time. Okay? Principal is 5,000. The rate is 0.0475, and the time, does it say exact interest or?
Well,
Oh, there's two ways here.
assuming ordinary interest when it's
So
exactly.
part A, ordinary interest is going to be what? What do we write down here?
360.
Now keep in mind here the days cancel out. Okay? So the interest is the result of that calculation. Calculator. 5,000 times 0.0475 times the quantity 185 divided by 360. Boom. What'd y'all get? How many thousand? What'd she say? I got $122 and a nickel.
I got 122049 as well.
What's that?
I got 122049 as well. Like $1,220.49.
Okay, well, let's think this through. If you borrow $5,000 and have to pay $1,000 interest, that's like 20%, isn't it?
Oh,
See, so that just tells me that something didn't go well.
I did 50K instead of 5,000.
Oh, well, that's different. That's different.
And part B is exactly the same, except we divide the last part by 365 instead of 360.
Yep. I actually wish this calculator would let you put in commas, because if you do have a lot of zeros, sometimes it's hard to read them. Make sure you got the right number of zeros. So that would be really handy if you could if it would let you do that. By the way, if you got one of these graphing calculators, you can do second entry and get the previous entry, and then go right over there and change the 0 to a 5 and press enter. And let's see here, let me write this down so we know what we're looking at. So part B Everything's the same except 0475. So this was, let me copy that so I can remember what it was. $120 and so which is the best deal for you? Exact or ordinary?
Ordinary.
Exact's the best for you.
It's cheaper.
Yep. Banks make a little bit on ordinary, which they probably figured that out. The reason they do it. All right, everybody okay with that? We ready to go on? Well, I get a new page here. This next one's a partial payment, and they take a little more room. So this is actually problem 5, isn't it?
Yes.
Would be 5 if we could afford numbers. All right, C10 partial payments. Joe Ellen borrows $20,000 for 180 days at 5.5%. So the original P is $20,000. The rate is 5.5%, and if you turn that into a decimal, I think it's 0.055, isn't it? And the original term or time was 180 days. All right? So that's what we start with. She makes a partial payment of $5,000 on day 50 and another partial payment of $5,000 on day 120. Use ordinary interest. What's the total she pays on this loan? How much is her final payment to settle the loan? Okay? So let's see here. The way I approach this is I say day 50. Now, I'm going to write all this out here. Hopefully you'll see how all this breaks down. Principal at day 50 is still the original $20,000, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The rate is still 5.5%. What has changed here, what needs to be considered, is the time. How long has it been? 50 days. So these are the numbers we're going to use to calculate the interest I after 50 days equals PRT. P is 20,000. R is 0.055. Oops. And it said use ordinary.
Yeah.
Ordinary. So we're going to have 50 days here.
Over 360.
Yep. Okay. Days cancel out. So, calculator. Turn it on. clear. 20,000 times 0.055 times the quantity 50 divided by 360. Close the parentheses, press enter. So what y'all get?
$152.78.
Okay. Let me paste that on here. Gretchen's grooving back there. So now keep in mind, this is the interest after 50 days. Now, I think the book referred to this as the U.S. rule. If you make a partial payment, the interest to that date is calculated first, subtracted from your payment. All right, so now we know what the interest is. So let's see here. This would be, and what's left is going to be applied to the loan. So the amount applied to original P equals the amount of the payment minus the interest to date. That's why we use 50 days. So the amount of the payment was $5,000. The interest to date was $152.78. So the amount applied to the original principal is going to be $5,000. Let's see, 23 minus 152.78. We're assuming our round off's okay. So did y'all get 48, 47, 22? Okay. Let me pull this over here. Okay, so that's where that came from. Now here's what we need to do. The new principal, that's PAL, isn't it? I think so, is going to be equal to the, how about this? The old principal minus the amount left of the payment, which we just got through calculating, didn't we? And up here under amount applied to the original P, I could actually have called this the amount left of the payment, because that's what that really is. Okay? So the new P equals the old P, which was 50,000, wasn't it? Minus the 48, 47, 22.
It was 20,000.
What is it?
It was 20,000.
Oh, that's right. Pesky numbers. 20,000 here. Nobody would loan me 50,000. I don't know why I thought that. Okay, so let's do that subtraction. 48, 47, 22. Boom. What'd y'all get?
So we got 1,142.78.
15,152.78. Now, here's the way I think is the best way to look at this. At this point, I would just consider this a new loan with P equal $15,152.78. R equals still 5.5. Now T depends on how long this particular condition here is in effect. Okay, so now let's go back to the problem, read on here. So we dealt with the payment at day 50. There's another payment on day 120. So, on day 120,
So do we write 120 over 360 or?
no. Hang on, let me write this down. So our principal is $15,152.78. R is still 5.5. T is 120 minus 50. That's how long it's been on the new conditions here, isn't it? Remember back on day 50, I said this considered a new loan from here. So now instead of being 120 or 50, it's what? 70 days. It's been 70 days since the previous payment, which we paid the interest up with that payment. So now we got 70 days. So now the interest due on day 120 is going to be PRT. And I don't know if I should actually put the 120 in there. It might just confuse you. The interest due is $15,152.78 times 0.055 times the quantity 70 over 360. And of course, those are days, which cancel out. I love doing that, by the way. Cancel out those days. So, calculator. And I'll clear that. Start over. 15,152.78 times 0.055 times the quantity. Does everybody see why it's 70 days? 70 days since the last payment. We paid the interest up then. Boom. Take a screenshot. So I got $162 and a nickel. All right, so we're okay with that? Now, remember what we did before. We figured the interest. See, this is what we did before. And then we did this. The amount applied to the original P is the amount of the payment minus the interest today. Copy. Paste. Isn't that cool? Now in this case, the original P is not the 20,000. It's this one right here, though, isn't it? So let's see here. So that's going to be equal to, it was a $5,000 payment, wasn't it? Another 5,000 minus the 162.05, and the calculator says that's going to be 5,000 minus 162.05, 4837.95. Okay. Everybody got that? All right, now that's what we're going to put to the existing principal, and we're going to do that. Copy. Paste. So again, the new principal is the old principal minus the amount that's left on that, out of that payment. So the old principal is $15,152.78, isn't it?
Yes. $4,000.
Minus 4837.95. That's going to give us what's left. This is going to be the new P. At day 120. So let's see here. $15,152.78 minus 4837.95. Boom. What'd y'all get? 10,000 something? So 10,314.83. Okay.
And that's how much we paid on so far? or-
Now wait a minute, we're not done yet. We're not done yet. No, we're not done yet. This gets us up to day 120. How many days was in this loan? 180. So now we've got to do the rest of it. The final, how many days? No.
60.
The final 60 days. P equals $10,314.83. Okay. R is still 0.55. And T is what?
60 over 360.
It's 60 days. We know that now. That's what's left. So, interest, PRT, $10,314.83 times 0.055 times 60 days over 360 days. Let's cancel out. Calculator. If I can remember where the calculator's at. 10,314.83 times 0.055 times the quantity, 60 divided by 360. Okay, everybody okay with that? Now, It's a little bit different now. This is the final interest. So the final payment's going to be what?
Well, it's gonna be the 10,314.83 plus 94.55.
Or the existing principal plus the interest. You know, you think in numbers, I'm using symbols.
It's a math class, I'm still thinking numbers.
Well,
It's like, yes.
I have a little bit different thing I'm trying to accomplish up here.
You're trying to teach us formulas.
I have to show every step. So what'd y'all get?
10,409.38.
Let's check back to the problem here and see what we're trying to find.
Well, I could have done
Final payment, we just found that out, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What about the total she pays on the loan?
The total she pays on the loan.
How would you figure that?
Well, probably add all the interest together plus the 20,000 from the other.
Now, if I want to know the total interest, you'd probably do that. But the question I asked is pretty simple. What she paid? She paid $5,000, and then another $5,000, and then the final payment was $10,409.38. Just add them together. Now, depending on how the question is written, you know, sometimes it'll be, well, how much interest did she pay? And then you'd actually go back and figure out the interest. Of course, now, can you look at this and tell me how much interest she paid?
Yes, $409.
Right. Yeah. The total minus what the principal was. Let me show you something else. Check. As a check, here's what I want you to do. Consider no partial payments. If there was no partial payments made, the interest is going to be still PRT, but it's going to be 20,000 times 0.05 times 180 days over 360. Now, should this be more or less than what we found out?
I'm gonna go with, it's gonna be more.
It should be more. So let's try it. So we've got 20,000 times 0.055 times the quantity, 180, over 360, which is 1/2 actually. Close parentheses, press enter. So according to my calculations, if there were no partial payments made, the interest on that loan would have been $550. Now, we had partials made, and we come up with $409 of interest, roughly. So I feel pretty good about our calculations. Now, if my calculations had said, well, we paid $700 of interest and still did partials, but if we'd have had just a straight loan and not paid anything, it would have been $550. I would have said I goofed up somewhere. Okay? So partials should save you interest money. And if they don't, you goofed up somewhere. Okay? All right. We'll finish the rest of this. I will get some problems out there on perishable goods and whatever else we need to do. Okay? We'll finish the rest of this on Tuesday. Have his exam next Thursday. Okay? Everybody okay? Nobody's head's exploded? Not yet? I'm not trying hard enough, am I?